Hello, this is Professor Bloom. How are you doing? I had a request from one of the students in your section to kind of go over discussion two to give you a little bit of maybe coaching on that. As you can see, there's only been one person that's gone in there, and that is Elizabeth. So thank you for figuring that out, Elizabeth, and making a post. I do think that I'll say something and kind of get folks who have more trepidation about it kind of launched on this question. So as I looked over it a couple minutes ago, I thought, okay, so it's asking you for to engage in some sort of depth of thought regarding definitions and variables when you're learning about research methodology. And here, starting to think about the pitch here is various strengths and weaknesses, and to consider a list of intriguing sample research questions. Please, choose, well, I put please, I would have wrote please. Anyhow, choose two of them and answer the following in your discussion post. Please note it was assigned for your section. If it was assigned for your section, it's a great practice for the major assignment located in this lesson, which in fact you do have a major assignment on research methods, which is under the assignment tab. So what you're asked to do is to choose two of these and answer the following in your discussion post. So two of them are two of these sample research questions. So if I was answering the question, I like to think about the lottery and why people play the lottery. So I'd probably pick, why do people play the lottery? And, probably this, because I know what this research actually is. Someone actually did this research. I imagine the person who wrote this discussion had a heads up about, it knows that there's been research on all of these. But do bar patrons get prettier, more handsome, closer to closing time? So I would pull two of those out and then go down here. So just because my view is clear, I'm just going to use my example here about this: do bar patrons get prettier, more handsome, closer to closing time? And I would operationally define. So I would kind of say, for the purposes of this discussion, I would say that I'm going to define prettier as, and you have to find some way to define prettier or handsome. So if I'm defining more pretty and more handsome, how would we define that? And that's a tough question, and this is why research is really hard. And even if you decide what your definition is, it doesn't mean that anybody else in the whole class or the entire world might have the exact same definition. So this is the little wink, wink, hint, hint. You can't really be wrong here. You do have to define it, though. So if you want to define pretty or handsome in a particular way, you could say, well, I've looked up some research, and one study defined pretty or handsome in this way. That works for me. Or if you just say, hey, I'm going to define it as, on a scale of 1 to 10, how pretty is this person? Not pretty, kind of pretty, very pretty. That would also work for me. And then it asks you to go on, after you created your operational definitions, what is the independent variable? What is the dependent variable? How do you tell the difference, explain in your own words? So in other words, you've already kind of set up an experiment here. If you're doing a prettier, closer to closing time, you're doing correlational research, and you're defining your independent variable is what you're kind of manipulating, or what the question is based on, and your dependent variable is the answer. So if the answer is a correlation, then you're saying that I'm looking for, correlation number of, certain expectation for a strong outcome might be above, certainly above 0.85 or below 0.85, depending if it's a positive or a negative correlation. And 3, is this question able to be answered by psychological scientists? Why or why not? The easier thing to do, by the way, in question 2 is to create an experiment, because experimental design more clearly in my mind has independent and dependent variables. I'll try to find something about independent and dependent and put it on the course news feed actually to help you out with that, because that's going to be a stumbling block. If the chapter doesn't make it entirely clear, maybe I can find something for you. 3, is this question able to be answered by psychological scientists? Why or why not? Well, I mean, if you're able to set up the study, I'd say you can answer it. If you can't set up a study on it, so, how do honeybees find their way back to the hive? Um, Gosh, I don't have the insight into honeybees, so I could say that, make a statement about it. Say this is impossible to know because we cannot know the inner life of a honeybee. All we can do is observe them, and that would be cool with me. Or kind of stick your neck out and say, I think this is entirely solvable, and that it can be answered. At least it can be answered in the way I've framed the question. So, having gone through this exercise myself, take home message one, there's no right or wrong answer. 2, you have to kind of define everything that you're doing, and that demonstrates that you understand the terms, such as independent, dependent variable, operational definition, maybe, the idea if answers can be found through research. Are you looking for answers? Are you looking for cause and effect? Are you looking for predictions? Correlations, often are very helpful for predictions. And then that's the question. Was there a third take-home message? I think there's 2 take-home messages. Take a stake on what 2 questions you want to answer. Do your operational definitions on them. Make that pretty clear. 2, the second follow-up to that, be sure that you are answering each piece of the question. So put down 1, 2, and 3 and put your answers for both parts in there. And then look at what other people did and you'll be able to get a good sense of, you'll just learn more. All right, hope this helps. Thanks so much for being here. Looking forward to your posts. Bye.